The Los Angeles Lakers might just be a bad matchup for Oklahoma City. What went wrong for the Thunder in this loss? We'll talk about it all on today's show.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, media member, and beat writer for InsideTheThunder.com, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, we're diving into the Lakers being a bad matchup for Oklahoma City, how they shut the Thunder down, and who the Thunder should want to play come playoff time. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with the winning of any $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Go visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So in this game, it's important to put into perspective, this is the second night of a back-to-back. And this is just one game out of 82, and you're bound to lose games. No team's going to go 82-0. No team is going to go on this miracle run where they hardly ever lose, and the Thunder are still one of the best teams in the NBA. However, the NBA is all about matchups. Some matchups fit perfectly for your scheme, for your style, and really allows you to flex your muscles and play your way of basketball. It fits like a glove for what you're trying to accomplish. Other matchups, they don't work as well. They do not work as well. It's like getting dressed in the dark. You don't really know what's going to come of it. For the Thunder, that matchup is the Lakers. Now, that's not to say the Thunder cannot beat the Lakers in a 7-game series. I don't believe there's a team in the Western Conference who you would look at and consider the Thunder significant underdogs against, or consider that they could not beat said team. I don't think that team exists in the Western Conference. I know how young the Thunder are. I know the Thunder lack rebounding size and that they're young, but I still don't think that there's any team who you can count the Thunder out against. But with that being said, there are teams who play into the hands of the Thunder more than others. And this Lakers team, it's not just this game. It's not just this game on the second night of a back-to-back. This Lakers team is a very tough team for the Thunder style of play. And I think that they're better than their record shows, clearly. And I think that there's a few simple things it comes down to. So in this game, individually, the Thunder got down 25 points. They blew a 12-point lead where they got up and had a fast start on LA, but LA settled down and got back into a rhythm. There were three lead changes, 3 ties. The Lakers won the rebounding battle 55-38. The Lakers turned it over 20 times to OKC's 10, so they produced the turnovers, but could not kind of capitalize. The Lakers had more points in the paint, which typically the Thunder win, despite their lack of size. The Thunder had less second chance points, 22-15. So again, even though the rebounding battle was such a disparity, it was only 22-15 second chance points-wise. However, fast break points was not the disparity it typically is. It was only 20-16 in that category. Here's the big kicker. Okay. The Thunder shot 39% from the floor, 38% from three, and 93% from the charity stripe. Yeah, the Lakers shot 51% from the floor, 51% from the floor, 47% from three, and 72% at the charity stripe. The Lakers, by and large, outperformed their typical three-point output by a wide margin. I mean, they had like 5 more threes in this game than they typically average, and of course, hit them at a higher clip. It comes down to how well these role players are going to play for LA. That's going to be their case for any matchup that they get into this postseason. But if you have D'Angelo Russell scoring 26 points, grabbing 6 boards, getting 3 assists, getting a block, shooting 52% from the floor, 5 for 11 from 3, hitting shots from his rear end, like if you have D'Angelo Russell doing that on this Lakers team, they're going to present a threat. If you have Austin Reeves going 4 for 5 from 3 with some unreal shot making that was heavily contested, you're going to win these games. Taurean Prince, 14 off the bench, was really good as well. But whenever you factor in that the Lakers possess the best player to ever play basketball and Anthony Davis, they're going to be tough for any team if their role players step up and play this way. They're better than their record shows. And when they're engaged, when they're active defensively, they can really, really make life difficult. And I get it. It's going to be frustrating. I've already seen it out there of like, oh, the Lakers only play good against Oklahoma City. The bottom line is the Thunder are one of those teams where everyone's going to give you the best shot. The Thunder are good. And the Thunder have a resume now that suggests you have to bring the punch to the fight to take on OKC. And the big thing that disqualifies that notion is that guess what the Lakers are going to do in the playoffs? They're going to give their best punch. They're going to be active. They're going to do all these things. But beyond just this one game, the Lakers present a very, very, very big threat to Oklahoma City because they can play physical. They can rough up OKC a little bit. The refs let them play and just harass the Thunder with their hands and with their physicality. They have the length and the size to defend in space. And because of that length and size, they can clearly muddy up the mid-range waters where the Thunder typically thrive. So they can muddy up the mid-range. They're athletic enough to get out and contest on spray-out driving kicks. And they have an otherworldly rim protector in Anthony Davis. And defensively, you look at it, and they've given SGA the most trouble this season. They gave him trouble again tonight. Because, again, they do the things that you have to be able to do to even have a prayer defending SGA. Now, I think that you give this team and this coaching staff a 7-game series, I would still pick the Thunder to win that series. But it's not a matchup that I'm just beating down the door from OKC to want to welcome in. And that's the key. Your season, by and large, which is why that sometimes doing the measurements by championships are so off base of what we see and shouldn't really be factored in as heavily, because your season is going to get defined by who you play when you play them. Is the team you're matched up with healthy? And how do you match up versus that team? For example, this Lakers team might be a 5-game exit against somebody else, but because their style of play directly influences and hinders how the Thunder want to play, this would be a massive dogfight of a series. One that I'd still pick the Thunder in, but one that would be very, very tough and very, very challenging. You have the best player in the world. You have Anthony Davis, and, a lot of people freaking out about, how do you counteract Anthony Davis? How do you not let him get comfortable in the paint? How do you kind of push him out? And how do you kind of take control back of the paint presence? You can't do it against Anthony Davis. Very, 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 very few teams, very few players in this league can make Anthony Davis uncomfortable, can get him out of his paint. And so it comes down to, are the Lakers going to continue to feed him? If they're willing to feed him, he will feast against nearly every single matchup in this league because he is an elite basketball player. He's one of the best modern big men we've ever seen. And there's a reason why, for a large part of his career, he was given this MVP level hype, because it's real, because he's one of the best there is. So every time the Thunder lose, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to go back to the drawing board of what this roster needs and roster construction and what Chet is or isn't. The bottom line is, yes, Chet Holmgren struggled to defend Anthony Davis. You're going to say that about 29 other centers, 28 other centers, because he's that good. Because Anthony Davis is that good. And typically, the only thing that stops Anthony Davis is his teammates not getting him the basketball and injuries. Both those things are not truly controllable by the opposition. And LeBron James, what he's going to do in a 7-game series. So when you look at how the Lakers can harass the Thunder physically and make things hard on them in the half court, and then you're going to get a couple of games of the role players playing well for LA, and that can really turn a series. That can really flip things on its head a little bit. When the Lakers win the season series 3-1, AD scores 24 with 12 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, 3 blocks. It's going to come down to how their role players play. That's the bottom line for LA. No matter if they play the Thunder or if they play, any team in the league, how well can these role players play around AD and LeBron? But if you get the role players clicking, as you've seen in this game, the Thunder rarely get blown out. They've only lost, 18, 19 times. And in those losses, they rarely get blown out. They rarely have a game where it's just, borderline, just meaningless for the final 2-3 minutes. That's how good the Lakers were tonight at home. So I don't think that you are dying to play the Lakers. I don't think that you should let their record and the fact that they're in the play-in give you a false sense or the fact that they played their best basketball against OKC for 3 games. Guess what they're going to do in the playoffs? They're going to play their best basketball. They're going to be locked in. They're going to be engaged more than they ever have been. And so the physicality and the length really bothers OKC. And again, it goes back to I'd still pick the Thunder in a 7-game series. It'd be very tough, but I'd still pick the Thunder right now in a 7-game series. But there's certainly easier matchups. There's certainly matchups that are more conducive to how the Thunder want to play. We'll talk about this game more, plus take on your mailbag questions all coming up. But first, want to tell you right now about our good friends over at BetterHelp. Check out BetterHelp right now so that way you can go and enjoy the convenient flexibility of online therapy with BetterHelp. Go there right now because BetterHelp is there for you. It has everything you need to get the benefits of therapy. Because look, sometimes you need the opportunity to get something off your chest, whether it's big or small. Certain things can really just start to get to you, start to add up, start to mount in your life. And it's important to let them all out, especially to someone who's unbiased in your life and that can really give it to you down the middle. So today, I think that you should go check out BetterHelp because it can give you that outlet and give you that opportunity. No matter what you're going through, whether it's family, career-wise, no matter what it is, you can get the help of BetterHelp and of therapy. And I get it. I've been there where you're like, I think it could help, but I'm too busy. I've got these obligations with your career, with your family, whatever. You can't find the time to just go to a brick and mortar building and go inside and have a therapy session or around their schedule. The benefit to BetterHelp is that it's fully around your schedule. It's totally online and totally conducive to you. That way you can still carve out time in your busy schedule to get online and get some help from BetterHelp. So if you think that starting therapy can help you, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed with flexibility and suitability to your schedule. Go there right now, betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA. That's betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA for 10% off of your first month. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, talking Thunder basketball. Let's continue on with this Lakers game. Then we're going to get into your mailbag questions because honestly, there's not much else to say about this Lakers game, but we'll get into some individualized performances. With Lu Dort, I think he played really well this game. 5 for 7 from 3. He's really the reason that he hung around a little bit in this game was because of Lu Dort. He's the reason why the game was close at half. He's the reason why the Thunder crawled back into being down 4, 2 boards, 2 assists, a steal, 15 points, a +4 in this game. And I think that it just goes to show that as he continues this season to shoot very efficiently and to be an improved option offensively, he had that mini sputter that I think that kind of gets heightened based upon his prior seasons. All right. You look at, a tiny bit of cold streak that he went through the last couple of weeks, prior to this winning streak. And you say, well, here it goes again. That's the shoe that's dropping. When in reality, that's the nature of the NBA season. By and large this season, we have way more of a sample size of Lu Dort being a really good offensive player, making way better decisions than he usually does, and being an efficient scorer, an efficient shooter. Those things matter, and those things are what's going to take him to the next level. As you push him down the ladder of, the totem pole of scores, and he doesn't need to put as much on himself. He can carve out this lane of extreme efficiency offensively and give you what he brings every single night defensively, and what he brought in this game defensively for Oklahoma City, and produce some great impact for the Thunder as a +4 in a game where you largely got blown out. I think that Josh Giddey, if you want to, go back and listen to Monday's podcast after that Suns game. And what we talked about in that podcast was about Josh Giddey. Like we have all these granular conversations of should he start? What's his future look like? What's going to happen this summer? And sometimes it's as simple as Josh Giddey should just control what he can control. We talk about how to use him offensively. We talk about how to get him involved and how to maximize his skill set. When you can control what you can control, everything else seemingly falls into place most of the time. And that bigger point yesterday was, I don't care what's going on, anywhere on the floor, except for defensively with Josh Giddey, where it comes to, you miss shots. You've missed some threes. You haven't had the season you want offensively. But every single night, be engaged, be active defensively, and be aggressive on the glass. And good things are going to come from that, because that's how you turn defense into offense, and that's how you gain easy buckets. That's how you saw him score in transition against Phoenix. That's how you saw him lead the charge down there and have a 2-on-1 break where he gets an assist easily. Like, that's where these things kind of start to stack up. And if you can turn a couple defensive plays into easy buckets and then have a couple good half-court plays, in totality, your game looks so much differently, all because at the root of the issue, you were just more impactful and engaged defensively. He did that in this game from start to finish, and this is the result. From start to finish, you saw him actively creeping down, help side defender. You saw him rotating very well. You saw him, calling out switches. You saw him playing the passing lanes and jumping entry passes. You saw him doing all those things, and it leads to 13 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, a block, 1 for 2 from 3, 60% overall. Nothing else changed. The lineups didn't change. What he's being asked to do didn't change. The pressure didn't change. The only thing that changed is, from opening tip to the time his night was done, Josh Giddey was way more engaged defensively. Because whenever you're engaged in this defensive system as the 5th best defender, and you have the size that he has, you're going to get steals, you're going to get deflections, you're going to get blocks, you're going to get rebounds, and you're going to spark the Thunder playing fast and playing the other way. And that's going to get easy buckets, and that's going to turn how things feel in this game. The Thunder still got blown out because of their own separate issues, but no one can look at this game and say that Josh Giddey didn't play well. And what changed wasn't some massive, Mad Hatter tricks from Mark Daigneault. What changed was Josh Giddey locked in defensively. What changed against Phoenix in the second half was that Josh Giddey locked in defensively, something that he can do by himself, independent of who he's put on the court with every single night. And so as that changes, I think that you'll see more and more that he improves at least a little bit in these games. SGA just he didn't have it tonight, and I think that there's of course the bigger picture would be that like they were aggressive, they were physical in the mid range, and that's kind of where SGA makes his bread and butter. But every star has days like this. 38% from the floor, 20 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 steals, 2 blocks, 1 for 2 from 3. It's a tough matchup for SGA, but I truly do believe he's the best two-way player in this sport. I truly do believe that he's the most efficient scoring guard that this sport has seen, especially in the modern era, where you give him a 7-game series where you're just honing in on that matchup. And you remember, the Thunder are going to have the luxury of being a top 4 seed in all likelihood based upon where they've put themselves to this point, and assuredly a top 6 seed. That's where you are looking at an entire week off in preparation for your postseason matchup. And you give them that time, plus you give them the 7-game series where you get off days mixed in, at times multiple off days mixed in for that series. And I think that he'll crack the code on any kind of defensive coverage that you're going to give him. So I don't worry about this thing spiraling or anything. I don't think that this is going to be indicative of how he would play for an entire postseason series, but it was a subpar game for him for sure, from where his standards typically are. J-Dub also was not impactful in this game, which is so rare. So the bottom line is you start to break this game down. J-Dub went missing. He was on the back of a milk carton in this game. SGA was off in this game. The Thunder did not shoot to their standards. The Thunder, did not settle in offensively to their standards. The Lakers had were 5 threes above their per game averages. The Lakers, had D'Lo and Austin Reeves cooking, plus AD's elite. You look at all those things, they start to stack up, and you can kind of see where this game kind of went awry. Whereas, you don't have that shooting luck from the Lakers. You have a better J-Dub game, and you have an improved SGA game, and you can see the game turn back the other way, even with AD being elite and commanding the paint and being such a huge presence. So sometimes it's that simple. Sometimes it's as simple as, hey, it's the second night of a back-to-back, which we're going to talk about coming up. But the MVP of this game, you can give it to SGA in the sense of not SGA. You can give it to Casey Wallace, or I'm so used to saying SGA for MVP of this game. Casey Wallace. You can give it to Josh Giddey for he played well in the kind of invisible aspect of no one's going to write home about this game besides the Thunder need a big. So it's not going to get kind of foreseen or kind of told how good he was. Lu Dort especially also deserves some credit here for the MVP of the game. But ultimately, let me know who you think it is down below on YouTube. And coming up, let's talk about your mailbag questions to take us home on today's show. But first, I want to tell you right now, but your friends over at FanDuel, check out FanDuel right now. And you know why? Because FanDuel is giving you $150 in bonus bets with the winning of any $5 bet right now at FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon on your first bet with America Sportbook. It's awesome. And there's still a lot going on. You have the NBA season in full effect. You have the NHL season hopping. You have college basketball going on. It won't be long until MLB is happening. I do not advise spring training betting. Please do not do that. But you can do future bets on the Cy Young winner, MVP, division winners, World Series winners. You can also, of course, just bet on regular season NBA games or bet on NBA awards or division winners and stuff like that too. But right now you can go check out the Mavericks at home, 4.5-point favorites over Indiana. I don't know. What are you going to do there? If you're at FanDuel, check it out today at FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking Thunder basketball. Let's talk about your mailbag questions. This one from Cam. How was the coffee? Great. I mean, listen, the coffee's still great, even if the Thunder don't play the best game. We got to get on here and talk about a brutal loss. I tried cold foam for the first time. Much approved. But yeah, great stuff. Great stuff as always. Adam says, why do we excuse the back-to-back for the losses when the Thunder team is one of the youngest teams and LA is a play-in team? It was clearly their night, but I'm asking in general, why do we all agree of schedule losses and it's only one game, but it's all good, but just wondering where that comes from. Well, number one, traveling is very hard. Playing these games is very hard. It was a very physical game today after playing an NBA game less than 24 hours earlier. I know that a lot of people on Twitter continue to talk about how they're dragging just watching the game, after going through a late game the night before and going through their whole day today and then having to watch this game at 9:30. Even people on Twitter were commenting how hard it was for their sleep schedule and everything else. Now imagine going and playing it with travel involved and everything. And plus we have historical data about the NBA that suggests that these things just happen. Whenever you're playing two games, in 2 nights and you're having travel involved, you're going to more often lose these games. Really, you can predict most of these based upon the schedule. You go back to, some of those traveling, the traveling to Atlanta after the massive win against Boston. That's obviously a letdown. You also factor in that you played a very emotional and very, draining game against the Suns, where you had to be in it. You had to be dug in for 48 minutes. And you went through a couple double-digit scoring runs, and you withstood a 36-8 run and won the game. Like, those things continue to mount. So I don't think that it's a poor excuse. I think that's legitimate. Also, the Lakers, again, as you mentioned, better than the record shows. and a bad matchup for Oklahoma City. So, you factor those in as well, where they're playing at home, they have the rest advantage, they have AD, they have LeBron, they have a good team to stop OKC, and it all just kind of snowballs from there. Caleb Jones says, how can OKC establish paint presence against AD? They can't. Not many teams can. I would say no one can, but you can mention Jokic, you can mention AD. You can mention Embiid. But in general, AD is still going to get AD's points and everything else that he provides. So it's going to be very tough, and there's no one that can really take him away for the most part. Joe says, what's your preferred first-round matchup? Yeah, it's a great question. Look, first of all, just as we mentioned off the top, I don't think that the Thunder have a matchup where they don't have a chance. I think the Thunder have matchups where it might not fit their play style the best, but they still can win, and you still might even pick them in those matchups. Also, the Western Conference is insanely tough. You look at this conference, and it's just, I'm not sure we've ever seen a conference this competitive and this deep and with this many teams that are so talented, to where there's not a matchup where you just say, oh, we're targeting that matchup, want that matchup so desperately bad. I remember, and they ended up losing this series, but I remember, back whenever they got that Portland matchup, the whole last week of the season, you're aiming, everyone's aiming, taking shots and circling Portland, wanting to play Portland so bad. They had some injuries mount up, and everyone wants to play Portland. Then Portland goes on a run. But in this case, there's no team who you indicate is oh yeah, that's the team you want to play. Now, to your question, there are teams who you think, could benefit the Thunder more than others. For one, I'd start with the Suns. Obviously, it's a very back and forth, crazy game that could have gone either way on Sunday, but their lack of depth extremely worries me in the postseason. You've got to navigate an entire month left of this season, plus, a 7-game playoff series. So, the Suns worry me in that sense as an NBA observer, to where I think that could play into the strength of OKC. The Kings have been just, crazy. Again, I don't think that the Thunder will just dog walk these teams, but the Kings have been a wild team that has blown big leads a lot this season, lost to teams you don't think that they should lose to. And the most recent memory, of course, with the Kings Thunder is that the Thunder blew them out. But still, those two teams I think would be good to circle. I think that the Warriors, just based upon resume this season, the Warriors are a team that you want to play. Now they do have the benefit of championship pedigree, a championship head coach, Steph Curry. You don't want to match up with him and give him a shot to beat you, because it felt like he single-handedly beat this young upstart Kings team last year, who was in a similar spot hosting a playoff series as the 3 seed. After a great regular season, Steph Curry drops 50 in Game 7 and wins the series. So, the Warriors, you say on paper this year, but whenever you factor in the context, it loses it a little bit. And then the Pelicans, I just think that you look at the play-in, and I think that you can kind of extrapolate that a little bit into a 7-game series and feel good about playing the Pelicans. But there's some teams I don't want to play, in the sense of if I was the Thunder, wouldn't want to play the Lakers, as we established today on this show, kind of breaking it down. I also personally just would not want to play the Mavericks, in the sense of Luka Doncic just guaranteed to win Dallas 2 playoff series, 2 playoff games by himself. And so in a 4-game set, in a best of 4 set, when you need 4 games, if he by himself is worth 2 games, then you have to deal with Kyrie. Then you have to deal with just outright winning a game because you're just, better that night, much less any sort of Luka Doncic heroics. That really gives them an edge in my mind because of what we've seen playoff Luka do in his career. I wouldn't want to play Dallas, wouldn't want to play the Lakers, but overall, as we mentioned at the top of the show, I don't think that there's a matchup where the Thunder just could not win. I think that the Thunder arguably will be favored in most matchups because of how good they are depth-wise, because of how good they are in a star-driven league based upon their star power of SGA and their rising stars of J-Dub and Chet. I don't think that those two guys, despite being very young, are going to be overwhelmed by the postseason. I just don't. So I feel good most of the time whenever we're talking about the Thunder this season. Andrew says, how hyped were you to see that the Moose get loose, and what matchups could he benefit from? It was great to see him out there, of course. He cares so deeply about this organization. It's cool to see him get back and play for the Thunder. But him with the Shai plus shooter lineups would be very fun. I would be interested to see him space the floor with Chet. I'm not sure if they're going to do that, but space the floor with Chet in a more routine, competitive game. I think that'd be very fun. But I think they can help you whenever you need to loosen up a game and stretch the floor and knock down some threes. Saved by Wiggins says, why are the Lakers the Thunder's kryptonite? And ever since the Thunder ruined LeBron's scoring night, they've been terrible, terrible matchup for the Thunder. Yeah, we've went over this a lot. I appreciate the question. And I think that the Thunder just are a team that's worthy of your best shot, and that's what you're going to get from these teams who desperately need these games as they stay in play-in positioning and jockey for better positioning in the play-in and in the playoffs. Mr. Tweet says, tired legs on the second night of back-to-back aside, why do you think that no one could beat their man off the dribble tonight? I think that the Lakers, whenever they are locked in and engaged, they're lengthy enough to where they can recover very well. You might get a step on them, but they're so long that they can recover and take that away from you. And also, like you mentioned, they do have poor legs on the second night of a back-to-back, which is not surprising. B says, why are the Lakers fans so intolerably lame? I think that it just comes bred with their history. And you look around every sports league, the teams that win the most titles, Yankee fans, Alabama fans, Patriot fans, you will look around and they're the most obnoxious. They're the fan base that people don't like. It comes with the territory. At Beer talks about Gordon Hayward's role, and right now he looks like a glorified Kyle Singler. I'm going to use this question to tease tomorrow's show. Tomorrow's show is Stock Watch. Whose stock is rising? Whose stock is falling? Who should you be concerned about and when? All those questions will be answered tomorrow. So make sure you subscribe anywhere you get your podcast from. Subscribe, and like this video on YouTube. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast from. Follow me on Twitter at Ryland_Styles and let me know on the roster whose stock is going up, whose stock is going down right now for Oklahoma City. We'll talk about that and more on tomorrow's show. Until then, be good and be good to one another.